they have a behavior, and I say, oh, you don't have to do it, and I do it a couple of times. If I see it get worse, then I know it's to escape. So I know I need a function-based intervention. What about the other three? Jason?
Student who was just constantly requesting iPads from the consulting behaviors would have him work for that, and then just refuse to give it to him. Usually ignore when he asks for it, and then present, or again, and then refuse to give it to him.
Yeah, so Jason said if an iPad, if we hypothesize that an iPad is a reinforcer, what you do is you let them sample it, so they really like, they're sampling the reinforcer, that they like it, and then you take it away and say my turn, and then if they have a behavior problem, you give it back. Oh, you can have it, and then you just reward it, and if it starts to happen more and more, you can be 100% sure it's for tangible stimuli, which is the second function. How about for attention? What can you do? This is important because these are the most valid ways of scientifically elucidating the variables responsible for it.
Providing individual attention, and then you say, oh, I have to do some work now.
Exactly. It's perfect. You give plenty of robust attention from a preferred person to the individual, and then you're like, oh, I got to work now, and you just walk away. So you created a situation that you orchestrated that the child likes your attention, and you take it away, you walk away, and then they have a behavior problem, they start screaming or calling out, and you're like, oh, what do you need? And then that, if you do that several times and you see that it increases, then you know for sure it's for attention. And now the tricky one's the sensory automatic one. How would you test for that? There's two ways really that you can experimentally test to determine if something's internally driven or if it's because things are either going to happen for social reasons like escape tangible attention, or they're happening for internal reasons, which are neurological, biological, any one of our senses. Exactly. That's one of the best ways. So if the learner cannot know that you're watching, but they're not engaging with any other people, and they're being observed in a lone situation. So if the individual is going to engage in this kind of behavior or whatever it is, I learned how to do that. Like Ben, my stepson taught me how to. He actually makes this loud snapping noise. I'm working on it, but like I have a Fitbit, like those things. And then the days I feel lazy, I just give him my arm. He starts shaking it. I get like 3 steps. But basically, you can test for automatic, or if it's an internal biological. Oh, this is a really good strategy. You guys got to know this one. This is great. So for the alone condition, I'll get to that. To determine if it's driven internally by observing them without them knowing it and no interaction with other kids or other people, and if the behavior persists over time, then it's probably internally driven or automatic reinforcement. Just like you or I scratching an itch. So you might punish me every time I scratch an itch, but I still have to scratch it. So when you turn your back, I'm going to scratch my itch. So in other words, it has to happen. And the only way to treat these behaviors that are internally driven is finding an alternative sensory item that's more appropriate. I'll give you an example. Like Ben used to like rock and flap really heavily during while he was requested to work, and he would interfere with it. And it was definitely it was because he would do it in all situations. He would rock and flap. So what we did is I knew we couldn't just punish rocking and flapping, because if we turn our back, he's going to do it, right? So the learner realizes that when you're not looking at him, he goes, I have to do it. It's internal. So what we did is he would earn, when he was younger, he would earn tokens up to, as soon as he hit 5 tokens, he earned to sit in a rocking chair and flap. So he learned where he could do it and where he couldn't. So we would make it real discriminable. There would be we had this like coaster with red and green on it, and it would have red on it when he had to work and not flap, and then it would flip to green when he earned it, and he would go sit in the chair, like really happy about it. Okay, so here's a little tip you're gonna love. It's a secret. So when look, we know sometimes when a kid needs to be on medication, but we can't say it. We can't. Neither can we be confident because we're not doctors. But we might know that a kid has hyperactive behaviors. We might all know that the mom's been taking him on and off Ritalin or a stimulant, and we see the big difference. And we all know that pharmacological intervention might be what's needed in conjunction with the behavior plan. But everyone knows that as soon as you were to say something like that, everyone's like, wait, you're not a doctor, you're trying not to educate my child, you're just trying to snow him on medication, right? So it's not within our scope of practice as teachers or educators or behavior analysts. We can't recommend pharmacological interventions, but sometimes we just know. So here's what you do. You do a functional behavior assessment, and once you've identified that something's internally driven through the alone situation, we always chart the data, and we show the family that this behavior occurs independent of everything. Therefore, there's an internal cause that needs medical attention. And we all but demand, we vehemently recommend that you need to go see a doctor, and then they know what it freaking means. You know what I mean? But it might not mean medication. It might mean a lot of other things. Like I had a girl that would scratch her face endlessly, and they tried and it was definitely internally. She actually disfigured her face from scratching it when she was in a residential setting, and the parents tried all kinds of medications, and we showed the graph that this scratching occurs across all situations or when she's alone, so it doesn't matter what you do. And she doesn't do it for attention, she doesn't do it for escape, she doesn't do it for an iPad, she does it because the scratching feels good to her for some reason. So we charted the data, the parents went to a psychiatrist, they tried all different medications, bad side effects like tardive dyskinesia, like these antipsychotics can cause serious irreversible side effects, like Risperdal can cause tardive dyskinesia, which is tics that don't go away forever, like things like that, too high of a dose. So the parents are understandably concerned, but what you can do, so for that girl, her face scratching, we did a preference assessment, and we took her to a toy store, to Toys R Us, and we were giving her different items, and she picked up this toy, you push, and the sample one, you could push, it was a vibrating toy, and she put it on her face, right? And you just saw this sigh of relief, and she smiled. And then we realized that since it's internally driven, the only way to decrease it would not be to punish it, but it would be to replace it with something sensory related. And she ended up using that all throughout the residential program and the day program. Whenever she requested it, when she didn't scratch her face, she would be able to access it and put it on her face, and then her face totally healed up because it competed with it. The feeling replaced the need to rip at her face. And we still never got to the reason why, but we found a replacement, and her face healed.